Hey guys, Rich from Rich Mid Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. And this is the inaugural episode of our brand new weekly format show, which, by the way, is still yet to be named. So if you've got any ideas for names, leave them down in the comment section below. And as always, and as highly requested, joined by the one and indeed the only MCP influencer, Quinn Duggan. Quinn, how you doing?
Hello. I'm all right. You can actually see my face.
And you're actually in person for the new format, which, again, strangely enough, people have been asking for.
Well, they didn't know what I looked like before, so now they're going to.
Now we'll get all the requests.
Get rid of me.
Exactly that. Yeah.
I do have a suggestion for the name as well.
Okay, far away.
Sexy jazz voice man's jazz ammo.
Yeah, it's a veto from me, to be honest with you.
The people will decide, Rich.
They may decide.
They
may decide. So, guys, the format of this, me and Quinn spoke about this for a while, and we were both kind of a little bit bored of doing these quick takes. So new cards get released or new info gets released, and we jump on a call straight away and try to dissect what it is. With having this weekly show, it's given us some time to fully digest and fully read through all of the changes that have been made. It also means that in some instances, we're going to have a chance to have played with some of the new cards as well. So, for example, part of the show will go into the spoilers. We've actually had a chance to play a game with all of the new character cards that were revealed earlier or late last week, even I think it was. So the format will be MCP news, and I think it's fair to say that we've picked a pretty good one as our first episode. There's quite a bit of news. There's quite a bit of news to talk about. So we'll go through all the MCP news from Atomic Mass Games. We'll then go through any spoilers. So any new cards, that sort of thing as well. We'll then look at a section that is going to be called the roster of the week. Now, this is where we look at somebody who has won an event over the past week, and we hopefully get them on the show and take a look at their roster. So later on, we'll be joined by Ron, Elliot and Aaron, who will also known as the Reverse Oreo, who will be talking us through the rosters they took for a very interesting weekend, Quinn, wasn't it? Because there were some additional restrictions around the team event that we had at the weekend.
There were indeed. It's a shame that, like, for the inaugural episode, we've got like a bunch of assholes on as guests, but you know,
we deal with the hand that we're given.
We can't choose us, right? We kind of just have to take what we can get.
This is true. This is true. So, rounding up the show, we will then be looking at two submissions from some of our viewers. The first one is going to be our Do You Even Paint, which will be a weekly painting competition. I set this earlier in the week, which was Dormammu. So we've had some really, really good submissions for that for this week. And every time you submit an entry, you get put into our prize draw. And the winner each week will have their work put up onto our Hall of Fame. The second one of the interactive part is all around bad dice rolls. Now, this one is kindly sponsored by Quinn's Skillshare course. Quinn, which is just, what is the word of it? Like, just roll better. Like,
just roll better.
Just roll better.
General advice I try and give to everyone. And, you know, I really want to make MCP a better place for people. And I feel rolling better is really a good way to, you know, enhance your competitive strategy.
So what we want every week, guys, is for you to give us your bad rolls, the worst rolls you've had of the week, with a little bit of context. So we've got some really good submissions from the team event that we did earlier this week. But Quinn, without further ado, let's move on to the first piece of news for this week, which is, I suppose, an umbrella statement is MCP 1.5 is officially here, right?
The revolution has begun.
It is.
We saw the old rules off with a really good competition that we'll talk about later on. And we're now into the new dawn of the new rules, the new cards, all that sort of good stuff. So we've gone through the rules in the past in other videos. So we're not going to go through them again in too much detail, but they did slip at least one or two extra little things in there, didn't they, for us?
They did indeed.
So the first one, as a Brotherhood player, hurts me a little bit. Not as much as if I was Asgard or Defenders with some of the other changes, but this one does hurt me a little bit. And this is around when terrain is being thrown. Now, for those of you that don't know, when you throw a character into terrain, the character needs to be a size bigger. So if it's a size 2 terrain piece, it needs to be a kingpin level character or a kingpin size character, so size 3 or more for it to destroy the terrain. However, when you were throwing terrain into terrain, there was a really interesting interaction that allowed you to pick up a size 2 and throw it into a size 2. So the same size terrain would destroy itself. Now, the use case for this is niche, very, very niche, in that there's really only one affiliation, or at least one character who benefits from that, and that is Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants, because his leadership ability generates power based on when terrain is destroyed. So if we're destroying 2 pieces of 2 terrain rather than just the 1, it means that we're generating 4 power rather than the original 2. So Quinn, I don't see it personally as being too much of a biggie, but it is a slight nerf again to those turn 1 plays, and we're going to see a theme through these, aren't we? That a lot of these things that have been put in place are to stop those turn 1 plays. How do you feel about that first change, or that additional change, I should say?
Yeah, so when I've played Brotherhood in the past, I've made use of that specific rule in pretty much every game I played with them, I think. It was very common for me to take a character like Lockjaw or Vision or Valkyrie and just throw a bit terrain into another bit terrain, generate power for my entire team, and then do whatever else they're going to do with their activation. Now having that somewhat restricted, Valkyrie was never going to be able to do it anyway in the new rules because of the
power, the power increase, yeah.
And Lockjaw and Vision can still throw size 3 bits of terrain into size 2 bits of terrain, which is pretty much where you want to be.
Yeah, and to be honest as well, am I ever running more than 5 wide on my Brotherhood roster? Probably not.
I very regularly just take Wanderer Mags. They're like my core for Brotherhood, which is an 11 threat core, which is quite expensive.
It is when you've only got 2 characters. Yeah, absolutely.
It makes it tough to build wider lists unless you're going for Mystique leadership, and then I wouldn't be playing Magneto, and then I basically wouldn't be playing Brotherhood.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So yeah, it's not like a massive nerf. It makes you think about certain things a little bit more. Board edges become slightly more important. They already kind of were with Brotherhood. But yeah, it's not like a major thing, I don't think.
So there was then one other little tweak, Quinn, wasn't there, which was around beam attacks. It's more of a wording change than anything else. Beams haven't changed. They're just now reiterating the point that a beam doesn't do damage to yourself. And I think, Quinn, for the rule changes, other than the ones that we've already had, and as I said, guys, we're not going to go through them because we've been through them on lots of other videos. What we'll probably do in the future is put together a new how to play, so how to set up a roster sort of thing in the future. But I think, Quinn, for the moment, that was all of the rules changes, wasn't it?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, that's everything.
Cool, Quinn. So they dropped not only the new rules changes, but they also gave us the updated banned and restricted list. And I don't want to blow our trumpet here, Quinn, but called it, right? Called it.
Pretty much. The one thing we didn't call was Panic getting outright banned, which is interesting to say the least.
Yeah, and we'll go on to that one because I've got some strong feelings around that. But let's start with Bitter Rivals. We called it. I had a bit of a lapse of thinking it maybe was just going to go straight to the banned list after my interview with Will. The wording he used made me think, is this just going to go straight to the band and is all you've got going to stay where it is? But it's not. It's exactly what we called. If you haven't seen any of the roster videos that me and Quinn have been doing or how to play videos, we've made this assumption. Quite glad we did now, Quinn. It makes it a bit more evergreen content.
Yeah.
But Bitter Rivals has been moved into the restricted list. Now, Quinn, why is that? Why has Bitter Rivals been moved into that list?
So Bitter Rivals is an exceptionally powerful card. It's 3 power, which is relatively expensive for most tactics cards. Obviously, you've got outliers like Follow Me and Helios, because that can be a million billion power. But the effect it gave was really, really impactful. Especially so, for those of you that don't know, Bitter Rivals is an unaffiliated tactic card, costs 3 power. You pick one of your opponent's characters to put the card on, and then enemy characters within range 3 of that character get -1 attack dice and -1 defense dice. And this led to effectively some really powerful attrition turns that effectively were costless. Because what you would do is you would daze the person you put the card on immediately, thereby removing any counterplay from your opponent by like removing that character from the situation, putting them on like a different like secure or whatever, and just like getting them out of there. Now they're trapped there in the center of the fight, and your opponent can't really abandon the fight for the entire turn. Even if they wanted to try to, they can only get out with one character at a time. So you're still going to see multiple beneficial uses of the card. And effectively, it just led to turns where if someone had priority, they would immediately play that card and they would just wipe out 2 to 3 characters. And then, like, the only real counter to Bitter Rivals was another Bitter Rivals, which you usually saw on the follow-up turn from the opponent during, like, the swing turn. And yeah, it was a card that, the only counter of the card was Bitter Rivals, which, as Schick said in the interview you did with him, it's not a thing they really want for the game, and I think that's fair.
No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm for whatever reason, I've never been a fan of the card. It's never made it into my Brotherhood list. Now, that may be because there are so many other good tactics cards that you want to take in Brotherhood, but I've been at the receiving end of it multiple times. It was appearing in every single roster, and you're right, it just became a de facto card that everyone used to take. What'll be really interesting for me is how it ranks against the other only 6 now, because we've not gone up to 7 restricted. We're still only at 6, and we'll jump into what's moved to the banned list, but I'm sure you guys all already know. Because Doomed Prophecy is now off the table for anyone other than an Asgardian. And again, we'll go into that with later on. So how does Bitter Rivals then stack up against the likes of Field Dressing, Medpack, Patcher? Because it seems like a lot of the other tactics cards in the restricted list are all around survivability, right? So Brace for Impact, Field Dressing, Medpack, Patch Up. There are only a couple of tactics cards that give survivability that are not in that restricted list. And I don't know how valuable it is now, it being restricted, if it goes above any of those other tactics cards.
I think specifically for teams like Midnight Suns, it probably does still come in, and they probably lose like Medpack for it. Or at least the way I've been running Suns, my 2 restricteds have typically been Field Dressing and Medpack. I'd probably end up switching out Medpack for Bitter Rivals just because they can get an exceptional amount of value from it during the Siege of Darkness turn.
If it's this, I was just going to say,
yeah.
So Wakandans maybe. Obviously, Midnight Suns, because they've got the Wakanda Forever and Siege of Darkness. So yeah, maybe those two.
I still think heavy attrition teams will favour it. They will probably mostly end up running Field Dressing plus Rivals, simply because Field Dressing is really good for offensive teams, because if someone brings your beta down, you just pop them back up and then they still do their thing for the round. And Rivals, obviously, as I've previously said, real good card.
It is a real good card. So onto the banned list. Now we've got 2 new additions to the banned list. One of them is a crisis card, and the other one is a tactics card. Let's cover the tactics card first. People hate it. I love it, but it's all you've got. It was too much, wasn't it? Being able, the combination of all you've got and Field Dressing was just too much.
Yeah, the way that card interacted with Field Dressing was obscene. Even without the Field Dressing interaction, it was still really damn good. Too good. I mean, I said that with a bit of trepidation there. No, it was too good. That's why it's on this list. Meh.
I actually don't think all you've got as a card by itself, standalone, is too bad. And I'd say the reason why, there is a downside. Yes, you're getting a huge amount of power, let's say, not actual power generation, potentially power generation as well, but a huge advantage for a short space of time, but it's very much burst damage. And there is a huge downside to it in that either your character is dazed or KO'd, which I think in the isolation would have been fine. You know, if you'd have been taken out, you know, if Scarlet Witch takes out 2 characters on your team, but then she's then dazed and there's no way of bringing her back, then I think it's fine. I think with field dressing was the most overpowered combination, but also with Doom Prophecy as well.
Yeah,
Doom Prophecy and all you've got on a Carnage or a War Machine or one of these big characters, cause some real problems.
I knew you were going to bring up Carnage. He's still bitter.
Very bitter, yeah. Very bitter. But I think overall the game will be in a much more balanced state without that card. And for me, that's what it's about, really, this banned and restricted list. I'd prefer to play every game and I win, 18-16 in the last round. I've got a few games of late where it's been like, 16-1, 16-2, because I've played these cards. They've been in the competitive scene. And my opponent's just been like, what do I do? You've got field dressing and difficult to please on Magneto. You've activated him 3 times this round, basically, and you've just destroyed my entire team. And it's yes, you get the win, but I'd rather a game go down to the wire and be exciting from beginning to end, rather than getting to round 3 and feeling bad, because sometimes that's what these cards can do.
It's almost like games are supposed to be fun.
I know, right? Next one, Quinn, is the crisis card. So panic grips as evacuation efforts continue. Now, I've gone and looked at the wordage around why they've done this, looked back at old interviews and that sort of thing. And the key thing with this is that it takes victory points off the board, doesn't it? That's one of the key things with this, why it has been taken and put into the banned list. But my big problem is, I would, especially when it comes to crisis cards, I would have much rather seen them make some changes to it and looked at it and gone, okay, people have bought that scenario. Taking away one card, that's fine. It doesn't affect it. Taking away another scenario that you can play in the game, I think has a bigger impact on it. And I'm a much bigger fan of errata-ing crisis cards rather than just getting rid of them completely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. One of the things that I would like to see a lot more of in this game is crisis variants. And by that I mean I want there to be more crises in the game.
Yeah.
Just because, it gives you a greater breadth of options. Taking one of them out isn't the best. Also, when you consider panic's removal, it does sort of beg the question as to why Legacy Virus has been untouched.
Yes, absolutely. And this came up in quite a few conversations at the weekend, didn't it? And we spoke about it before. And again, I don't want them to ban it, but I want them to reduce the victory points that you get. 8 is far too many. 6 feels like it's good. 5 feels like it's really good. And 4 feels like actually there's a bit of a incentive there to hold on to them.
Yeah.
Hold on to them. And then if then you've got a clutch play at the end. But it's, I don't know. It's just too much. But you are right. It does beg the question as to why this has been outright banned, but yet Deadly Legacy Virus hasn't been touched in any way, shape, or form. So that is the new.
It's the thing.
Yeah. So that is the new banned and restricted list, guys. That is in effect now. We'll put links down to all of these documents and everything will be in the description below as well, so you can go down and check them out for yourselves. So, Quinn, as well as the ban and restricted, the new rules, we eventually got all of the digital assets, didn't we, for the stat cards. Now, we've been through each of these in turn. However, there were a number of new characters who we hadn't yet seen, with some changes on there. But they've gone back and made a couple of little tweaks here and there, haven't they, on some of the cards that we'd seen previously. So shall we work our way through I think it's maybe 4 or 5 cards in total, and we'll do what we normally do and break them down.
Yeah.
So first one then, top of the list is T'Challa Black Panther. And I think 2 changes to Black Panther. First of all is his push, isn't it? That's been restricted now to a size 3, I believe.
Just like his sister, yep.
Just like his sister, yeah, which I think probably makes sense. And then the second one is on the King of Wakanda itself, so the affiliation leadership ability, and it's just that timing restraint, isn't it, on when you can actually modify the dice.
It's more of a clean-up than an actual change.
Exactly that, yeah. So it's been a strange one, hasn't it, with dice modification. We had what we thought was the right rules that everyone played. Then they said, no, you've all been playing it wrong, including themselves. And then with the new cards, they've reverted back to how we were playing it before, which is, I'm happier with it that way. I think it works better, being perfectly honest. Guys, the next one is Corvus Glaive. This is a real minor change from what me and Quinn went through the other day. When me and Quinn reviewed the card, he had 4 energy defense on his front side, and then it dropped back down to 3 on his back. That was a typo. It is 3 and 3, so I just wanted to mention that one as well. So the next one is on Hulk, who has had an ever so slight nerf to the card that we originally saw, and it is on his reactive ability, Hulk Not Puny Banner. Now, everything stays exactly the same. However, it's now going to cost 4 power rather than the 3 power, which I think it was initially, Quinn, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is going to see an impact to him. New Hulk is a beast, to say the least. Yeah, he's a big old boy, and you really feel his presence on the table. But just tuning Hulk Not Puny Banner down ever so slightly by increasing its power cost will probably make him feel a little less terrifying. Keyword is less, not completely not terrifying. He's still really fucking scary.
He is what he should be on the board now, though, right?
Yeah, big time.
He's a powerhouse that can take a beating. The more you beat him, the more damage he dishes out. So yeah, I'm okay with that. There's another slight nerf to Hulk as well, but overall, off the back of this, if you look at Hulk's package, he is bringing significantly more to the table now than he ever did. The other character then to go through a bigger change. Everyone's favourite 2-threat character, Okoye. Now, of all the characters in the game, I would say she was probably the most powerful for her threat level. And I think it's always important to reiterate that for her threat level. I think in the last TTS League, 70% of rosters had her in. And it was like, 200 players or something like that. So, it just goes to show how good she actually was. And she has had a little bit of a nerf. The first one, which may not seem like much, but I think is going to be quite impactful, is Vibranium Spear Blast. Still range 4, still 4 dice, still 0 cost, but it now doesn't generate a power, does it, Quinn?
Yeah, of the 2 changes that Okoye has received, I think this is by far and away the biggest one. Her not being able to generate power anywhere near as effectively as she previously could is going to be really big in terms of how often she gets to bodyguard a game, which I think is entirely fair considering she's only a 2-threat.
Yeah.
But it's going to dramatically change how she plays on the table.
Yes, absolutely. And then in the same vein of reducing how much power she can generate, her strike, which is you gain power equal to damage dealt. So it's only four dice. It's always been 4 dice, but she has lost the reroll from General of the Dora Milaje, where it used to let her reroll 1 attack dice. It's now just 1 defense dice. So, even more adding to that lack of power generation. What do you think, Quinn? Do you think they've gone too far with this, or do you think they've brought her down so that, she maybe gets to do a bodyguard every other turn or something like that, and that's probably enough?
So, I haven't really formed a proper opinion on Nuokoye. I haven't had any table time with her. I'm not sure whether I will, actually, based on the things I'm going to be playing going forward. But, it is a massive step down from where she was. So evaluating it from there, she's a lot worse, obviously, but previously she was far too good for a 2-threat. She was by far and away the best 2-threat. One of the nice things is that she hasn't got the additional trigger on her flurry for the spender. That's still just a wild, which is nice.
That stayed the same, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like she probably could have kept the offensive reroll if they were going to get rid of the power from Spear Blast, just because she doesn't really perform that bodyguard role anywhere near as she probably has half the defensive potency she used to.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair, yes, but once again, very drastic change by comparison.
Do you think, whereas Okoye in the past slipped into any roster whatsoever, obviously within Wakanda she was part of that core, but you could put her in Avengers, you could put her in Brotherhood, any roster, right? Yeah. If you turned it with an Okoye in any roster, nobody went, why the hell have you brought that? That doesn't work. Now, we're not saying, you always play what you want to play, but do you now think that she's going to find homes, particularly in lists or rosters that help her with that power generation? And I'm thinking along the lines of, maybe a Brotherhood, maybe an Avengers where, it reduces that cost to 1. A-Force, I still think she's going to be very, very prevalent because you get to give her that power from the leadership ability. Do you think she could just maybe find a home in, still, because she'd still be really good in any of those rosters, wouldn't she?
Yeah, I think specifically in A-Force, as she's an affiliated 2-threat, that's obviously a very big boon. Generating power on her from other people getting attacked is really good. Avengers, yes, they can bring her, and under Steve, she kind of operates in a similar way as she used to. But if you're bringing her under Steve, you've already got an in-affiliation bodyguard in the form of Steve.
And you've got a second one in Luke as well, haven't you? So
yeah, that's true. And also you've got Heroes of Fire as a card, but also you have an affiliated 2-threat. So a lot of the time people bring 2-threats because it helps with squad composition, building your squad. Sometimes having a 2-threat just allows you to get that one extra model that you feel you might need on the crisis, whatever it may be. Having that 2-threat be affiliated makes that even easier.
Even better.
Which kind of makes them eke out non-affiliated 2-threats.
Yeah.
So what you saw a lot in the old rules was Okoye being brought in with factions that didn't have an affiliation 2-threat. Spider Foes, for example, they don't have a 2-threat. There's a myriad of others. But in effect, I think now you'll probably see those same rosters branching out into different 2-threats that better suit their style, like Bullseye, like Rocket, like Nebula or Wong even. I mean, I still think Wong is terrible. Some people like him, so sure.
So, and I agree with that. And I think for me, that is a better state of the game.
Yeah.
Right. If you've got one character that everyone can just take because she's so good, I think restricting her in a way that if you put her in the affiliations she's supposed to be played. Now, again, the thing we love about this game is we can take anything with anything, but the affiliations that she's part of, she's still going to work well in. And then there are some other affiliations that have that inherent power generation where she's still going to be as good. So whether it's, we mentioned it like Brotherhood, although, as a Brotherhood player, I've never really taken a Koya before. I've never really seen the need for her, but, definitely maybe a Dark Dimension or something like that as well. She could potentially work. So Quinn, the next one on the list, and again, it's another minor change, and this is for Ultron, and it is for his already quite heavily changed Analyze and Annihilate, and it's really the timing of it. So in the original card that they gave us, this happened before crits were resolved. For any crits rolled by your opponent, before you or your opponent resolved their crits, you got to reroll one die, which meant that if you rerolled that die and you got a crit, you could then explode another die on top of it. Quinn, I don't think they liked that. And I think that's the reason why that came in there, because we've always been told you roll your dice, you explode your crits, you re-roll your dice, you modify your dice, right? And this kind of broke that rule. And I think the one thing that they're trying to be with these new rules and the new wordings on cards is very clean. There's no room for interpretation. This happens in this way. So what we've moved to now is, while attacking, the character may re-roll one of its attack dice for each crit in the opponent's defense roll, which is much cleaner, I think, isn't it, than what we had previously?
I think it's partly to do with cleanliness, but also partially to do with consistency as well. Pretty much every sort of dice changing thing in the game that works on attack and defense is becoming in the modified dice step, as it should be. There are still a few outliers like Beast, like Blade, who aren't going to be affected at the moment, but will probably be affected later down the line.
They'll be brought into it, won't they, with everything else. So Quinn, the last one then, and actually the 24th card. So out of the 50 original cards, 24 have had an Errata'd. Now, some of them are very small. Some of them are like Hulk and Bullseye, right, where it feels like just a so much better card. One card that we both agreed needed looking at is good old Bucky, Winter Soldier. And he's had some changes. He's slightly better than what he was before. But he's still not great, is he? So
he's still Bucky, that's for damn sure.
So he's still a 3-threat. Some people were saying that, maybe he should have gone to a 2-threat. I didn't agree with that. In my head, the Winter Soldier is a super soldier, right? He should be a 3-threat character. So his change then comes in the form of rapid fire, doesn't it, on his assault rifle?
So there's two changes. One is the rapid fire on the assault rifle. The other one is an increase of cost to got you back. Like the assault rifle getting rapid fire is cool, but the fact that it isn't flat power generation makes it real bad. I mean, I've said many times before, I don't like four dice builders on anything more than a 2-threat.
I'm okay with them if they are like a secondary alternative, right? So you've got a 4 dice builder that generates 1, and then just a normal builder that is, power equal to damage. I'm fine with that. But yeah, this feels bad. It's two things for me. I understand the got your back going up in cost, right? It has to, because there's now that rapid fire trigger.
Yeah.
But I would have much preferred to just seen generate 1 power. I think would have made it much better. Or if you're not going to do generate 1 power, his Spetsnaz training is just a reroll. Just you get to reroll 1 attack dice.
I think they mentioned at some point that Spetsnaz training was more there as a flavor rule than like something to make the character mechanically work. Which is fair enough, but still, like, it's so incredibly niche. Like, even if you expanded it to a range 2, at least it works on Red Fury all of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, even his spender he can't use it on. And let's be honest, unless somebody's coming towards you, you're not even using Red Fury, right? You're dishing out 2 assault rifle attacks.
Yeah.
Because, well, potentially 4 with the rapid fires on there. So, yeah, overall, I am underwhelmed with Bucky. And it's annoying because I was really hoping, I've said this to a lot of people, my probably my new affiliation is going to be Guardians. And I had this plan of building a very shooty Guardians list. And I was really hoping Winter Soldier was going to be part of that. Because having another range 5, attacker felt really good. I just can't see me taking him now.
I'm also looking at Guardians. I will, however, be running this boy with them because I really like him and I think he's really cool. So that's my current plan with Guardians. It would have been really nice to have like a Winter Soldier type character to be able to just, do other long range things alongside Rocket, and you play wide with Guardians, got you back, could have been really cool there.
Yeah, but, loads of really nice reactive plays, right? That's kind of what I wanted from them, So somebody moves, or Rocket's going to shoot them, or somebody days a Star-Lord. Well, that's fine. Winter Soldier's going to plow 2 assault rifle attacks into them, and it just doesn't.
He can still do it. He just can't do it very well.
It just doesn't do it great. So Quinn, that is all of the stats cards. But we got another little treat, didn't we? Which was some of the tactics cards have had a change. So let's start with the one that we've already spoke about, Doom Prophecy. We'll just get it out of the way. So Doom Prophecy stays exactly as it is, with the exception that it is an Asgard tactics card. Now, I would argue Asgard were missing some tactics cards. They only had 2, I think it was.
2, but they were a very good 2 in all fairness.
They were good 2, yeah. I would also argue, okay, hear me out, that Doomed Prophecy thematically fits Asgard, in terms of what it does. Who from Asgard are you ever going to play this with?
Thor, to make him even dicier.
And this is my problem with this card, is that yes, it takes it away from some of the characters. We mentioned them earlier: Carnage, War Machine. There's a couple of others, but they're the main 2 for this. It takes away that as a problem, because I'll also argue that was a problem in the game. Again, especially when you especially coupled with all you've got on that sort of thing. But my only the one ray of hope this gives me is that they have up their sleeve some really good 2 and 3 threat characters, or at least three threat characters they're bringing to Asgard. So that means that Asgard are going to get a new leader and some more characters soon.
Like, my theory is that this is future-proofing. That seems to be the prevailing theory. There has to be Asgard releases in the pipeline, because otherwise this change is utterly abysmal. They're gonna have to do like the Warriors 3, Heimdall. There are so many options. We went through the options yesterday. Like, there's an exhaustive list.
There really is. Yeah, there really is. So sticking with Asgard's, because they're not coming out too well from this, are they? Rainbow Bridge. Now, I am a firm believer that this had to be done. But Rainbow Bridge remains exactly the same. It's still an Asgard card. Still costs 3. You can still move 3. However, not if you're holding an objective token. And I think that's a key part.
Which brings it in line with the Orb of Agamotto from the Convocation.
Exactly. And I think brings it in line with almost all other additional movement type things that you got. Not everything, but a lot of like additional movement that don't cost an action.
Yeah, typically it's
moving in that direction.
Out of activation movements, and more specifically, quite long range movements as well. Like, you won't get it on like a short advance or whatever. But
but a bump
things like this, it's range 3 is massive.
Yeah, especially on a big base, right? Especially on a medium-sized base, which I think 3 of the Asgardian characters are on at the moment as well. So
Two.
Oh no, yeah, because Thor. Yeah, I always see Thor as like he should be on a bigger base, but he's not, is he?
In my head, Thor is always size 3, but he just isn't.
Yeah,
Like he
yeah.
could be a really fucking big dude.
So let's also then look at some more of the turn 1 players that we spoke about earlier that are being reduced in capability, shall we say, somewhat. And let's start with poor old defenders. So, Quinn, how many defenders tactics cards were there?
Let me think. Oh, there's so many. So you've got Pentagram of Ferala, and then you've got
That was it. Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that not for everyone, but for the vast majority of competitive defenders list, let's define it as that, Quinn, they were all built around turn 1 play. So Quinn, Pentagram of Farallard now, still during the power phase, but it's gone from 2 power to 3 power, which means that it's now impossible to play turn 1. Or at least not, well, no, impossible to play turn 1, right?
Straight up impossible. Not happening.
The other turn 1 plays, in fact, 2 more turn 1 plays things, and let's cover advanced R&D because I think this has a wider reach than any of the other ones. It can now only be played by the character that is activated, can't it? Which restricts this card so much in terms of what you can do with it. Asgard dishing out power. The one I'm thinking of, Quinn, more than anything in this as an ex-Midnight Suns player, as you've already told us your allegiances are moving elsewhere, Midnight Suns being able to do some, turn 1 extract shenanigans on the hammers and that sort of thing. I'm unsure with this one as to whether or not I like the change. What are your thoughts, Quinn?
I can definitely see why they did it. Once again, it's very much in the same vein as stopping a lot of the turn 1 stuff. I'm really glad that I wasn't going to stick to my guns with Suns, because otherwise I'd be bawling out tears at the moment. It's a really big change. It's still going to be decent, as a card that you just take and use in the middle of the game for whatever reason.
For dishing out power, yeah. If you've got somebody, especially if you've got somebody sat on a back point, right, who's generating power and they've got nothing to do with it. Yeah, it's a really nice way of...
Barton sat there with a bow and arrow going, hey, everyone, I did some research.
Or a Wong or a 2-threat Black Widow or something like that. But, now with 10 slots, we could see advanced R&D turning up in more rosters than what we did previously. But I do think that, this theme of turn 1 plays and stopping them. Now, overall, I am for that. I am not a min-maxer. I don't sit down with my spreadsheets working out, how far a character can move and then do this and then do this and then bring this back, because that's just not my style of gameplay. And I think I'm right in saying, Quinn, it's not yours either.
It's counting, which you're not very good at either.
It's not for me. No, it's definitely not for me. No, but we spoke about this with Aaron from Web Warrior Protocols last night, and we all agreed that we would much prefer this game to be far more reactive, right? I want to be Star-Lord when I turn up to these games where I have part of a plan.
Secondly, I don't even believe you have a plan. I have part of a plan.
And that's it. Rather than turning up to a game, looking at what my opponent's running and going, well, by round 2, I'm already going to be 6 VPs down. So my entire game plan now is just trying to claw back. And that's what a lot of these turn 1 players brought. And for me personally, I think for a lot of other players, it wasn't fun. And back to that, it wasn't fun. And this game should be fun. Even if you're playing competitively, you should walk out of a game and have enjoyed it. And some of these cards and what you could do with them, really meant that you didn't. Gamma Launch, another turn 1 play. Works in exactly the same way, but it is now only during Hulk's activation. I think there was a lot of Steve, Hulk, and Thor play, wasn't there, on Gamma Shelter in the early days? And this was a
Ye
big,
olde big dick.
yeah, and this was a real big turn one play. It may be the first turn one play that we saw in the game where you just yeeted Thor up to the middle of the board, and maybe there was one before. You're looking at me like there probably was.
So not necessarily a turn one play, but very much a turn one thing. It used to be playing Cabal with like Ultron, and like you would drop off Captain Marvel so she could do an energy blast, do a damage with it, generate 2 power. She then activates, does another one, and then gets into binary
form. Yeah,
and then like.
But I wouldn't say that was
is the goat of all the turn one
maybe.
plays, but you know it's not a very frequently remembered one because drop off is very, very far back in people's memories these days.
I still miss it. But I'm not too bothered with this. You know, yes, it's a slight nerf to Hulk, but I don't think Gamma... Before Hulk's change, you would never see Hulk played, typically not seen played, without Gamma Launch, right? You had a plan, it involved Gamma Launch, that's why you took Hulk. Now, I think you can take Hulk without even taking Gamma Launch. I don't think it's a card you need to take anymore.
With the restrictions that were already on it in forms of objectives and the restrictions now placed on it in the form of it having to be on Hulk's activation, I really don't foresee a place for this card. I won't say that the card's never going to get played because that's simply untrue. People are going to play it.
Absolutely.
But I can't see myself ever bringing Gamma Launch.
No, not at all. On to then the last 2 cards, and these are both attacking cards, aren't they? They give you a new attack. So the first one we had already seen, I believe, which is Ricochet Blast. Now everything is exactly the same. It's just gone from 2 power to 1 power. I'm still probably never taking this card, right? But I like the sentiment. And the reason I'm never taking this card is I'm never playing Avengers. They're just not my roster.
Fair.
But
if you were playing Avengers, though,
if I were playing Avengers with 10 slots, this would probably make it in. And I can't believe I'm saying that because, with the exception of Seven Sons of Cinnabus and illicit tech, actually, since we've had as well, these have been terrible cards, right? As a general rule of thumb, these have been terrible. But actually, for 1 power, I'll take that.
Like. For a grand total of 3 power, 1 on Cap, 1 on Iron Man, you can have a 9 dice range for attack measured from Cap, including line of sight and cover, that re-rolls everything. That seems pretty fucking good.
Yeah, especially if you've got Iron Man on your back point.
And then like you arc him forward through Cap. You just melt someone's face off. I am actually of the opinion that this is better than Helios Laser.
Oh, okay.
Specifically in Avengers, of course, but 9 dice re-roll like any is really damn good, and it's a lot less of a power.
Well, it doesn't cost as much, does it? That's the key.
Like you pay 3 power. Like how often do you pay 3 power for a Helios Laser? Never.
No.
5 dice. Meh.
And you can add Friday AI to this, can't you?
Yeah, which is why it's 3 overall.
Which is why it's 3 overall. Of course, because you're reducing it by 1. Yeah. So on to the second and actually the last of the cards. So the second sort of attack card, Quinn, is Thunderwave. So this is Beam 5, 6 strength. Obviously 0 cost to actually do the attack. But once again, I think this again has gone from 2 power each, hasn't it, down to 1 power each.
Yeah, I would have really liked to have seen the range between Cap and Thor changed. Range 1 is always an awkward range. It also doesn't make the most sense to me, considering Thor can hit someone with his hammer from range 2, but he can't hit a shield with a hammer from range 2.
I think... I suppose, his strike, isn't it? His strike exactly. is there. I think I can't see this one getting played as much, if I'm being brutally honest. Maybe more because in how Avengers are now, are you really putting Thor in Avengers?
Yeah, there are so many other options that you can take with Steve. Like, for one threat more, you get Hulk. And, like, even if you can't afford the one threat more, you can take Wanda as an affiliation character.
Yeah.
Seems good.
And it's also worth pointing out, both on this and the previous card, because it is important, they will work with Sam as well, right? Because it is Captain America. So it's not Captain America Steve Rogers, it is just Captain America. So particularly on that ricochet blast, if you're one of those people who like to play Sam Spam, all of a sudden you've got another reason to take Iron Man now in your Sam Spam list. Quinn, the last thing then is the Infinity Gems. We already know the difference. Space Gem is down from 2 threat to 1 threat. The Infinity Gem for time is now basically you get to re-roll your dice, including
also
failures.
Down from 2 to 1.
Also down from 2 to 1 as well. Yeah, so that's had a complete rework. And that is it for all of the new cards. Quinn, as a whole, what are your thoughts on how they've done with them? Should they have done more? Have they done too much? Do you think they've got the game now into a much healthier state than what it was 6 months ago?
I think the game is definitely going to be in a healthier state going forward. I am always a big advocate for change, like in games. I think it really breathes like new life into things. I would have liked to have seen more. I can understand why they were being quite conservative with it, but also I just want them to stop lying that they're never going to do this again, because they are.
Well,
don't worry, X-Men are going to get changes one day. I promise. Like, I might be wrong, but I promise that I think it's going to happen.
I think precedent has been set now, hasn't it, for some of the rules and how they will work moving forward. And there are characters that are in the game right now that break that precedent. And
yes,
I think
that haven't been included in this.
So I think if nothing else, those characters need addressing.
Yeah.
But there are definitely, and it is mainly around the X-Men, I'm going to say, that they don't need too much, but they need something more than what they've got.
There is also the entire reasoning behind like this whole change is with regard to, the new format of cards, the legibility of it for like colorblind people and people with other visual impairments. Obviously, you're going to have to update every card in the game to be in this new style, because otherwise that defeats the entire point of legibility and accessibility. Which means that they're going to have to change the X-Men's cards. So why not do a little tweak while you're at it?
I would be very surprised if they didn't. For me, Quinn, if I get out of my head and get out of my mind that it was just the first 50, right? Everything up until X-Men. There were a couple of characters who I thought they could have just done with a little bit more. You made, Drax for me was always one. I know you would disagree to some extent, but I know one that you will agree with me on is Thor. Thor is still not
sad boy.
Well, let me put it in this way, Quinn. He is the leader. He is the sole leader of Asgard, and it is in question whether or not you even include him in your squad. That's not where any leader should be.
Now it's a question as to whether you even play Asgard full stop.
Well, there is that. Yeah, there is that. So for me, one of the rules I would have loved to have seen them implement, and we've spoke about this before, is I think leaders out should be mandatory. I think you could play unaffiliated, but you don't get anything. Just taking 3 Wakandans that are, that's one of them not Black Panther shouldn't give you access to the Wakandan cards. I think if you want the affiliation bonuses, you should have a leader, but then the leaders should be the standout characters of that affiliation. And they've done it with Star-Lord, right? They've made Star-Lord. You are never not taking Star-Lord in Guardians anymore. They've done it with Green Goblin. You're never not going to take Green Goblin anymore. Captain America Steve is now an absolute solid leader for the Avengers. And you've got Thor, I think of all of those, the highest threat cost, and they've missed him completely. And it makes me sad because his sister is better than him and his affiliation is taking a kicking. And I think that's the one thing they've missed out on, is doing something with Thor in this wave. And as far as we're led to believe now, he's never getting anything, right? Because they've done with this. They're not changing anything from this now. So the only hope for Asgard is now that they get a new leadership ability and some new, and maybe a new tactics card gets released in the next 6 months and it is amazing and it turns Thor into an absolute powerhouse. And that can happen because we've had it happen with other characters. But right now, it feels like every character has been put into a really good spot, whether it's pulled up, whether it's been pulled down or pushed up slightly, apart from Thor, who I personally think really needed it.
Yeah, Thor is still very, Thor's, as he is, still very dice dependent. There may be releases coming up in the future that might change that for Asgard. There might be some support type characters that help him with re-rolls in affiliation or with just anything, really. I think at the moment, Thor is definitely in a terrible place, but I hold out hope that he might get somewhere in the future.
Yeah, hopefully so. Fingers crossed. I really, really hope he does. Guys, that is it for the MCP news of the week. Now, I think it's fair to say, Quinn, that every episode probably won't be this long when it comes to the news.
You've forgotten some news.
No, I haven't. Because I
know, right, we're doing that this week.
Because it's kind of not AMG news, is it?
It's not AMG doing a thing. That's fair.
They most definitely didn't want us to see these ones.
What are you talking about? Our prevailing theory is that we'll release them for my birthday.
That is true, actually. That was the theory that we came up with, wasn't it? Guys, some of you may have seen some unofficial leaks that came on to Facebook earlier this week, and they were for the 3 X-Men Brotherhood characters that were revealed as part of Ministravaganza that, for whatever reason, we haven't yet seen. Now, I think we can probably expect to see an official announcement next week on this. I think it'd be strange if they didn't, after the fact that they've already been spoiled. But one of the reasons why me and Quinn wanted to do this in this way is we've now actually managed to play a game with these. So what can look like it's really good on a card actually is a bit meh in a game, or something that didn't look like it would be great. Once we actually play it and read it properly and work out the kinks can turn into something that's much, much better than what we thought. So rather than doing these as hot takes, we've managed to do them with a bit more meat behind the bones. So starting with Colossus Piotr Rasputin, Quinn, let's run through his healthy side first. So he is 6 stamina. He is according to his card, a 5 move, but I think we can take that as a short move. Size 3, 4 threat, 4/3/3 on his defenses. So off the bat, looking like a reasonably tanky 4 threat character. But let's get into his actual 2 attacks that he's got. So he's got a strike, 5 dice, range 2, power equal to damage dealt, and then it's got the trigger that I really do hate, which is on a wild, you get concussive force, which after the attack is resolved, the target character loses 1 power. Like, I really don't like it.
It's
Why?
kind of cool on someone that's stunned, I guess.
Why? Like, it's just not good. X-Slam is his sort of big spender that he's got. So range 2, 7 dice, costs 3. It's got stun. After the attack is resolved, the target character gains the stun special condition. That's quite nice. And then on a wild, they're going to gain stagger, which on 7 dice, Quinn, you'd hope that you would get, right? Typically you're going to roll a wild. let's just start with those two. Let's remember he is 4 threat, right? He's not a 3 threat character. He's a 4 threat character. Underwhelming for those 2 attacks that he's got.
Yeah, he's not got a great deal of offense, and in the game we played, I definitely found his offense to be lacking.
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, he was attacking into some tanky things, but even if he wasn't, like...
yeah,
like...
I agree. I found him, and obviously I've only played against him yet, but yeah, he doesn't, he's got no, as we'll see, no dice manipulation or anything like that. So he's reliant on just rolling well. And yeah, power generation, I think he's going to be okay for him. He's going to be able to eke out, 1 or 2 power. But yeah, just not great at all. Let's go on to his first superpower then, playing catch. Pretty standard thing. Interactive terrain feature, and I'll come on to why that's annoying. Size 3 or less within 2, throw rate medium, costs 3. So 3 for 3. But he's a 4 threat. He's a size 3 character. He's Colossus. Why is this not either or?
Yeah, why can Colossus not throw characters? Like, I mean, also, in a similar vein, during the same release wave, why can't Rogue throw characters? Like...
Yeah, I agree. So, yes, it's a pretty standard. 3 for 3 is okay. Medium is fine. It's what you would expect. But, again, just feels like he needed something else there. Big Brother is just it's a bodyguard, but he doesn't move himself, does he? So it's just like a normal bodyguard. So if it's within 2, if it's within 2, strange that they've called it something else. I get Big Brother is like thematic, but it's strange they've called it something else, but they're not giving it a little twist.
They've done it a fair few times, and they actually do it later on in this release wave as well, which we'll get on to.
They do. Now, did we work out what this actually translated into, the next one, Quinn?
From what I read, it translates to "oh my."
Oh my. So this is Buzz Moi.
Buzz Moi.
Dear Lord. So when this character is targeted by a physical or energy attack, it may use this superpower. Add 2 dice to this character's defense roll against its attack. We've seen it before. Cost 2 power.
Vibranium shield.
Get 2 dice. Yeah, exactly that. And then organic steel. So when this character would suffer damage from an enemy effect, reduce the amount of damage suffered by 1 to a minimum of 1. And that's obviously an innate ability. And then, as you'd expect, he is immune to bleed as well. Whilst Quinn, I would say that if we'd have just read his card, we might have gone, okay, yeah, he looks all right. He felt like old Steve.
Yeah, and I mean, old Steve, you're never going to feel like old Steve in a good way, but he really feels like old Steve not in a good way.
He felt like old Steve without the extra attack.
Also, this feeling is coming from the game we played, where I actually massively cheated with Colossus multiple times. Even though I caught myself, I forgot again and still did it.
Yep.
I was using Colossus as a medium move character.
Yep.
As a slow character,
he's
good
even
God,
worse.
That's not the thing I want.
So, we spoke, haven't we, about how these tanky characters, they've suffered in this game, right, up until now. Steve being the big one, Black Dwarf being another one, right, where all you do is push them out of the way. He's only size 3. Yes, Black Dwarf has had I would say, an indirect buff in everybody else's nerfs, but most people have been dropped down from if they were unlimited, they're now, some of them are 2, but a lot of them are still 3. And it feels like he's going to be very easy to control. It feels like he's just not bringing anything that the X-Men needed.
I mean, he definitely fits the X-Men trend of being a character that with like 1 or 2 tweaks would be really, really solid.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, medium move, be able to throw characters. Suddenly Colossus is great.
Yeah.
But that's not a thing he's got. We should probably also cover his injured side because there are changes on it.
So on his injured side, then, as you can see from the card, goes up from 6 to 7 stamina, which is always nice, right? More stamina. Personally, I always prefer cards front-loaded because you get more value from them, but okay, that's fine. Everything remains the same, but Buzz and Y changes from being a reactive to a innate ability where when you're defending against physical or energy attacks, you add blanks to your defense roll. So you lose the ability to add 2 additional dice, but you get to add blanks to your defense roll instead, which is Captain America.
This is true. I've described him as reverse Black Panther.
Yeah, he is a little bit, isn't he? Without any of the burst damage that he can do.
Make, Black Panther good.
So here's my problem with him. 2 problems. He's gonna be so easy to just take out of a game. I don't mean daze or KO because he's a tanky boy, but just move and make him completely ineffective. I think he could have had a medium move and nobody would have looked at this card and gone, oh my God, he's so good. If anything, they'd have gone, oh, he's on a medium base with a medium move. That's quite nice, right? For a defensive, tanky character. Ooh, actually, we've got this bodyguarding character who's got a bit more movement than everybody else. That's quite nice. His second one is, and I'm going to combine playing catch and strike together because either give him a throw on his strike on the trigger or let him throw in playing catch. And personally, I'd have preferred to see him have a throw off the back end of his strike. I think that feels like it would have been really good. I think you restrict it. You make it size 3.
You make it like Miles, and then
you make it away, right? But yeah, he's gone right into the meh pile of X-Men characters for me. Just not good. He does bring 1 tactics card with him that we know about so far, don't we? Which is Fastball Special. We've already seen this before. Whilst thematic,
I mean,
to play that card means you're taking 2 very underpowered 4-threat characters, which I don't know. If he would have had a Fastball Special on his card, I think you could have then got away with not having a throw of a person on there. But I think because it's a single use, because it's tactics card, for me, he just doesn't cut the mustard as he is right now.
Yeah. This is one of the many reasons why I hope that the update we got yesterday isn't the last card update or errata, because
hopefully so. Yeah, hopefully so. So Quinn, sticking then with X-Men characters, and one that we think could potentially end up in another affiliation as well.
My boy,
your boy, Remy LeBeau. We just spoke about how, Schick talks about this, this sort of curve, doesn't he? And how he wants it to be as close together as possible, but, but characters not being all the same. Whereas Colossus, for me, in that game we had, was very much at the under the bell curve in terms of what he offered. This guy is a 3-threat powerhouse.
In the game we played, Colossus did some okay stuff. I mean, I was cheating with him, which was a big reason why he actually did anything. But Colossus was definitely underwhelming. Remy, on the other hand, I am in love with.
So let's first of all just talk about his model, because
God, yeah.
he's in contention for best model in the game. And maybe one of our future videos, we rank all of just the actual character models, but
Just sculpt, yeah.
he is
like,
up there, right? His model is beautiful.
He's got like the cards fanning out. He's got
it's just so good. Right. It's so good. So let's run through his card. Now, we only have his healthy side. We don't have his injured side. The guy that posted them decided that nobody would want to see that, apparently. But we'll make the assumption that he doesn't change because he's a 3 threat, and they very rarely do they? They tend to be the same. So 5 stamina, medium move, size 2, 3 threat, 3s across the board. Right, looking good so far. Maybe a little under the curve in terms of his stamina, but
it's about average for a 5, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we see a lot of like 5'6" or 6'5", but it's okay. First thing I'm going to point out is 2 builders, right? You know me, Quinn. I like having a choice, right? I need a guaranteed power. Perfect. I've got bow staff. Range 2, 4 strength, guaranteed power at the end of it, with a push on a size 3 or less if you roll a wild, and it's going to be a short push as you'd expect. Good, solid 3 threat builder, I think there, Quinn. Really good. And then following up with that, he's got kinetic ace.
Oh,
range
boy,
3.
I like this attack.
Yeah. Range 3, 5 strength. After the attack is resolved, character gains power equal to damage dealt, but explosive on a wild. Before damage is dealt, other enemy characters within 2 suffer 1. This chip damage that you were doing in our game, whilst attacking Jugernaut and then chipping away into Magneto, into Toad, into, I think it was Wanda that took the brunt of it, is not to be underestimated.
No.
It's really, really good. And I'm going to jump ahead, Quinn. I'm going to jump ahead to his second ability, which is a little something extra, because it ties into these so much.
Yeah, it ties into all 3 of his attacks.
Yeah. So a little something extra costs 1 power. After this character rolls attack dice, it may use this superpower. This character may change 1 hit in its attack roll to a wild. That is, in terms of fishing, is so much better than any reroll you're ever going to get to get that wild.
On the subject of rerolls, it's interesting. Like, it's still got the old wording on it as well.
It does.
With to when you do it.
Yeah, it does. So this is not
to show that this was made before all of the changes were made.
Yeah,
which I think was kind of obvious.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, once again, another candidate for changing the X-Men.
There we go.
Just saying, I won't hold it against you if you want to buff X-Men.
Absolutely. And then his spender, which 52 card pickup.
Oh, yeah.
Beam 4, 5 dice. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? 4 power. Okay. On a wild flurry of cards. When making this attack, each wild in the attack roll counts as 2 successes. Now that by itself, as a beam attack, is, I'm going to use the word okay, Quinn. That is an okay beam attack. However, when you add in his first superpower, which is accelerated charge or accelerate charge, 3 power, add 2 dice to your attack roll, but the key thing here is during the next attack action. This is Iron Man Friday AI Unibeam type territory, where every single one of those Beam 4 attacks is going to roll those 7 dice rather than the 5 dice, which then becomes really good. It's costing 7 power, but we'll get onto our thoughts on this. Then add in a little something extra. So why would you not, right? If you've got 1 power, you're always going to spend it.
If you have a Gambit that is absolutely stacked with power, you're going to do this beam, you're going to buff it as much as you can, and you are constantly using a little something extra and just melting whatever was in front of him.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that's a lot of power, right? That is 8 power for this attack when we add everything in. Okay.
And that's just for one of however many you get under the beam.
Yes, absolutely that. Yeah. So a little something extra can be for every roll. So let's say that you've got 3 people under the beam, which is probably, if you were going to put this much power into it, it's probably what you would want to get, isn't it? At least 2 or 3. So that then goes to a 10 power attack. This is where Scott's leadership can really come in and help him out, can't it?
It definitely is. Do want to quickly mention that you stopped me living the dream in the game we played with Gambit, and I still haven't forgiven you. We'll get onto that a little bit later in this sort of leak review, because there's a certain tactics card that I'm not very happy with.
I wonder what that one is. So Scott's leadership can really help him out with this. His last superpower, then we'll just go through this last one. Enhance agility, 2 power. After an attack targeting this character is resolved, this character may use this superpower. The attacking character suffers 1 damage. This character may advance away from the attacking character. So it's the same cost as Slippery, but you get to do a little take that with you. And
I mean, you're describing it using other superpowers. It's literally parting shot.
Of course it is, yes.
Yeah, that's what that is.
It is parting shot, yeah. It's exactly
this
parting
is
shot.
the renamed ability I mentioned.
So, Quinn, I played against him. You played with him. How did he feel on the board when you were playing him?
He felt absolutely great. He sort of went off to one side on his own and didn't have to deal with a lot of stuff until he started coming in and raining down kinetic aces on people, which was real good.
Yeah.
The guaranteed splash damage from that attack, effectively make it a 1 power attack, guarantee explosive pretty much, as long as you roll a hit or a wild, which is very likely, I think. I didn't miss it once. I think I triggered it once on one of them I did, and then I just paid for it both times on the others. Keep in mind I was doing this into a Jugernaut, who we'll get onto. He's a tanky boy. Doing this into someone else and generating power from it as well sounds incredible.
Yeah, because that was the thing, wasn't it? You were doing it into Jugernaut, and we'll go into why Jugernaut forces you to attack him in the next character card. But so you weren't actually eking out any damage on Jugernaut, but it was that explosive damage that didn't trigger
I was hitting
any of the other parts, wasn't it?
I was hitting Mags and Wanda with it, which getting splash damage onto characters like that, real damn good.
He also comes with a couple of tactics cards as well. First one, Charming Thief, so unaffiliated, reactive card. Play it during the power phase. Doesn't cost anything. And basically, so anyone within range 4, any enemies within range 4, if they use an active or reactive superpower, Gambit gains a power. It's just the soul gem for a single round, right? Do you make this kind of investment in Gambit? Is he worth? Does he have enough to spend things on to be worth taking it?
He definitely has enough to enough things to spend power on. It's just a question of it is a 3 threat that can put in work anyway worth an additional tactics card to make them pop off in that way. You can probably just take him in certain affiliations that allow him to do the things he wants to do a little better, in Avengers to reduce the cost of accelerated charge, in A-Force to build up a bunch of power on him, in Cabal to generate more power on him from him doing attacks. There are a myriad of other options that Gambit has for generating power that are probably better. It might make your 10, in the new world where there are 10 tactics cards, it might make your 10. I don't know how regularly it will make your 5. I would guess not very frequently.
Yeah, it feels like both in and out of affiliation, and we'll talk about affiliations and where we think he could sit, because his next tactics card really leans into the fact that he's not just going to be an X-Man. I'm struggling, to put it in your 10 almost makes me go, well, when are you ever putting it in your 5, right?
Yeah.
and it just doesn't feel like it's the right thing for him. His next card, however, Dark Past. Now, first of all, the artwork on this is really nice. Really,
he's going Morlock hunting.
Yeah, really, really like the artwork on this. But it's unaffiliated. It's a reactive card, and it says during the power phase, if your squad is not using the Uncanny X-Men affiliation, Gambit may play this card. Each allied character within range 3 of Gambit gains the stealth superpower until the end of the round. And then it just tells you what stealth is. That's, first of all, I like it. I think it's really nice. It's also even nicer when you think about what other affiliation he could actually be in as part of his dark past. Now, he is the Master Thief.
He's the King of Thieves.
King of Thieves.
In fact.
So, I mean, you already mentioned this, but is he going to be in Criminal Syndicate?
Exactly. Like, if he ends up being Syndicate affiliated, him in conjunction with Bullseye and all the throws that Syndicate have access to, that's a lot of automatic damage.
It really is. It really, really is. And adding stealth into the mix of what they've already got in terms of objective holding just makes them that much better, right? Because they become that much harder to daze and take off a point because you've got to get up close and personal with them.
Which is where they kind of want you to be. Well, they want you to be close to them in order for them to be able to get rid of you.
Yeah, they want you up in their faces, don't they? Because, with the exception of Bullseye, there's not too many ranged attacks. They tend to be range 2-3 attacks, don't they? That they're all bringing. And a lot of their defensive tech is within range 2 as well. So, yeah, I think it'd be really interesting to see where Gambit ends up. But I think overall, very solid 3-threat character. Actually, off the back of another solid 3-threat in X-Men as well, which is Magic. I think actually X-Men have gained 2 really good solid 3-threat characters who actually both bring a solid tactics card with them as well. Which I think
you are a much bigger fan of
Journey Through Limbo. I am, yeah. The fact that you can do it to your opponent, bring them to you, give them Incinerate, and then attack them. I am a fan of that, yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, Future Rich coming at you here. During editing this video, we did actually get the back of Gambit's card that you can see here. And just as a quick FYI, there is absolutely no changes from the front to the back as we predicted. Back to the normal show. So Quinn, on to the last of the 3 characters then that were spoilt. Kane Marco, aka the Jugernaut, and this guy is everything I wanted the Jugernaut to be. He is an absolute powerhouse. Let's run through his stats quickly. 8 stamina. He's on a large base, so he's got a short move, but it doesn't feel as bad because he's on a large base. Size 4, 5 threat, so he's going to cost a lot. 4, 3, 5 for his defensive stats. So already off the bat, makes him one of, if not the tankiest character in the game, just from his stats for his threat level. Two attacks that he gets. So for a 5 threat, that's the one thing I was a little bit surprised to see, was the fact that he only comes with two attacks, which on a 5 threat character you tend to see 3. I know there are a couple that only have 2, but I
was very surprised that we didn't see some sort of beam attack where he gets placed at the end.
Yeah, where he moves to the end of it. Yeah. So strike, 5 dice, range 2, 0 cost, power equal to damage dealt. It's got a push on a wild, and it's a push of any size. But this guy's the Juggernaut. He's size 4. He can push Dormammu, right? He's no issues pushing Dormammu about.
He's the unstoppable Juggernaut. Dormammu's not going to stop him. So yeah, off you go, Dormy.
So off the bat, Quinn, for a 5 threat character, that is not the best builder in the world. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it would be a real shame if you didn't have any sort of way to increase that.
Yeah. So
that's called foreshadowing.
So then his spender is I'm the Jugernaut. So he's got some wordy things on his card. So we'll break all of these down. And again, one of the reasons that we didn't do a hot take is there are things me and Quinn picked up on playing the game that we'd missed from the initial read. So I'm the Jugernaut, range 2, 7 dice, 4 cost. On a wild, it has rush. After this attack is resolved, if it is during this character's activation, this character may immediately use the Nothing Stops the Juggernaut superpower without paying the cost. So we don't really know how good that is, do we, Quinn? Until we look at Nothing Stops the Juggernaut, because I would say this is really what his entire sort of kit is built around, really, isn't it? This is sort of his main
momentum, very much so.
Yeah. So let's read Nothing Stops the Juggernaut. So it is a active superpower that costs 3. This character is pushed short. If this character is pushed short, it does not stop its movement if it contacts a size 3 or smaller interactive terrain feature. Instead, the contacted terrain feature is destroyed, then this character continues being pushed. If this character contacts one or more other characters, one contacted character suffers 1 damage. Then this character stops as normal. A character can be damaged by this superpower only once per turn. If this character has the stagger special condition, it loses it. Guys, there's a lot to break down there, and it's very wordy, and they are putting words into text now to make sure there's absolutely no points of contention in terms of what happens when and everything else. So let's break this down. He's pushed. Okay, so what happens when you're pushed? Well, when you're pushed, you have to make the full movement until you come into base contact with anything. It's like a throw without the collision. However, rather than stopping when he hits terrain, as long as it's size 3 or less, which goes alongside the rules of when a character is thrown. So a building needs to be 1 size less than you are size to be destroyed. He destroys that building, but carries on moving. And I think that's the real key important thing. So he destroys the building around him, he carries on moving, and that's it for that part of it, right? So he just destroys the building.
Yeah.
If he then comes into contact with a character, so they're not mutually exclusive in this one, guys. So if he then comes into contact with a character, he stops as normal, and then that character takes 1 damage. Collision damage, kind of normal, but it's the reverse of it. So he's not thrown into them. It's as if that character's almost collided into him in terms of how the damage is dealt out.
Yeah, if it were that he was effectively thrown into them like a pounce, he would be the most broken thing in existence.
Absolutely ridiculous, yeah.
Bam, 5 damage. Bam, 5 damage.
So, as I said, they're not mutually exclusive. So you've got a character stood atop a size 3 building. Jugernaut destroys the building and then hits the character. So they're not mutually exclusive. That's the first thing to point out. Each character can only be damaged once per turn. So he can do this as many times as he wants, but a single character can only be damaged once per turn. And that makes sense because otherwise you could just eke out extra damage
otherwise
every
you would
single
have
time.
like a 9-power Juggernaut just do an automatic 3 damage to someone, which doesn't seem particularly fun.
No, it doesn't seem fun at all. Well, fun for me playing Juggernaut.
Fun. It wasn't exactly fun for me, Rich.
Not so fun for the other character. So guys, there's a lot in there, but this then leads into some of the other stuff that he's got. But we'll start with his next superpower, which is Nice Punch. Reactive, costs 1 power. Basically, it's an annuity to pain. Pays a power, reduces any damage he takes by 1, not just enemy damage. So this includes a bleed. This includes the damage that he would take if he was holding a cube or something like that. So yeah, super tanky because there's no limit here as well as to the minimum damage. So a lot of these damage reductions is to a minimum of 1. He can just flat out get rid of all the damage with it. If he takes 1, spend a power, reduces it to 0, which is really good, Quinn, right? I mean, it makes... He's 8 stamina already, so...
I mean, considering how pillow-fisted X-Men are, I'm amazed I managed to daze him in our game.
You did daze him, yeah. Although you put a lot into him.
Yeah.
His next superpower then is a innate superpower, Helmet. This character cannot be pushed or advanced by the special effects of an enemy mystic attacks or enemy superpowers. And then his last superpower, actually no, his second to last superpower on this side, because he's got a lot, is unstoppable momentum. So again, it's innate. After this character resolves a move action during its activation, it gains 2 power. The next attack made by this character, this activation, adds 3 dice to the attack roll. This character can be affected by this superpower once per turn. So all of a sudden, he goes from having a 5 dice builder to an 8 dice builder.
And a 10 dice spender.
And a 10 dice spender. Which is a lot. That may be... Is that the biggest builder in the game that we can get to?
There's got to be bigger, right?
It's up there.
Black Dwarf can get to 8 with his stupid enforced oblivion thing.
I can't he? Maybe Hulk. Maybe Hulk. Hulk can get to more.
Well, yeah, Hulk's kind of cheating, though.
Yeah. But, I mean, either way, power generation is not a problem on Jugernaut.
Yeah, honestly, I think the power generation aspect of Unstoppable Momentum is the biggest thing about it, because it allows you to do a turn 1, nothing stops the Juggernaut.
Yeah, so you can do Unstoppable Momentum, generate 2 power, nothing stops the Juggernaut, take out a size 3 building. Oh, look, I've just generated 3 power for my Magneto and friends. Dish out that power, and then you're probably going to be in range of doing a strike. So then doing an 8 dice strike into somebody.
Yeah, like you used him as your first activation.
I did.
Our game,
yes,
I definitely thought it was a mistake, and I think you agreed on that after I explained why.
100%, 100%. You want to activate him last.
He's real good at just bullying someone when they go to the midline round 1, because he does move forward, pushes himself forward with the power he gains, and potentially touches them and does the damage automatically. Even if he doesn't, he's almost certainly in range 2 of them to strike them with 8 dice and just like stave their head in.
Yeah. I also want to put some other players into this as well, because Brotherhood have a card, a tactics card, called Asteroid M.
They do.
If you've got a character who's already generated some power for everyone, okay, and then you've got another character, whether it's a Quicksilver or a Mystique or even just a Scarlet Witch who's moved up twice or even once to get into a position, then being able to move once, Asteroid M Juggernaut to within 1 of the other character who's already moved up, and then do an attack, and then do at least 1 nothing stops the Juggernaut, is going to be devastating for your opponent. Potentially turn 1. So in a world of no more turn 1 players, woohoo for Brotherhood. But guys, he is, after playing his card, he is everything I wanted Juggernaut to be. But let's take a look then at his flip side, because he does change quite a bit. And this may be the only character in the game, Quinn, that I am going to magnetize. And I am hoping he gets an alternative head.
Helmet off. Yeah.
Yes. I've not done it with any of the other ones. I really hope he gets magnetized. Oh, sorry. I really hope he comes with an alternative head and I can magnetize him, because I think that would be really cool. So guys, everything stats wise remains the same, apart from his mystic defense. Now, for those who know about Juggernaut and what he is and what he does, his helmet was built basically to repel his brother. For those of you that don't know, his brother is Charles Xavier, Professor X. So his helmet gives him this huge amount of mystic defense. Now, he's lost that helmet, okay?
Yeah, he's lost his magic hat and now he's sad.
Yeah, loses his magic hat and now he is sad. So he drops all the way down to 2 mystic defense. His strike remains the same. I'm the Juggernaut remains the same. He does, however, gain Avatar of the Sitarak. So costs 3 power. Choose an interactive terrain feature, and I love the next wording on this, or enemy character, both of size 3 or less and within 2, throw it medium. This superpower can be used once per turn. Big fan of that, as you know, Quinn. I like it when I can throw either.
It just goes to show that AMG didn't forget that people could throw characters during this wave. They just wanted to shit on Colossus.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
From a rather great height.
It really does. It really does. So everything else remains the same. He loses helmet, okay? So he loses all of that benefit of not being able to be pushed and mystic attacks and everything else.
He's lost his magic hat and now he's sad.
Loses his magic hat. I still don't think he's that sad.
He's probably pretty happy.
He's probably pretty happy because if you've managed to take out Jugernaut, he's probably going to come back with a whole nice bunch of power as well that he gets to spend.
Stop ramming into things and throwing them.
So Quinn, I played him. He felt like the Juggernaut. He felt good. What was he like to play against?
Well, in order to answer that question, I think we should first look at his tactic cards.
Shall we look at his first tactics cards? So let's start then with, I think the easier of the two, and I think one that we've probably already covered. But do you know who I am? They missed out, right? There's not the word bitch once.
Well, the mouse has brought down the hammer.
The mouse has spoken.
They've alluded to the line enough times in his text, but I think it's just
they have.
You have to read between the lines, Rich. It's in third.
They have. So unaffiliated, active. Juggernaut can spend 3 power to play this card. Choose an interactive terrain feature or enemy character, both of size 4 or less, within 2, and throw it at large. He can yeet Hulk half of the board.
Yeet! Off you go.
And the thing I like about this is you can then double whammy this for the Brotherhood and maybe not give all of that power back to Juggernaut, but generate as much power for your team as you spent throwing the character, if you so wish, by throwing them into a building. Now, the chances are is that what you want to do is pick up Hulk and throw him into another Avenger or whoever else he's playing, because 5 incoming damage is going to make a bit of a mess. But this is a really nice card. I can't see a scenario where this doesn't make my roster if I'm taking Juggernaut.
Yeah, I think it can quite comfortably fit into the 10. I think it's more of a tech piece than his other card.
Yes,
but yeah, it's still real damn good.
Yeah, absolutely. His next card then, which I didn't use the entire game that me and Quinn had. I used it at the very end of the game. But
I was very intentionally playing around it.
This card, I've never seen a tactics card, Quinn, have so much of an impact just being sat in my 5 before.
Yeah.
So let's go through what it is. So making a ruckus or ruscus, as I
thought
it would making a ruscus. When another allied character within 3 of an allied Juggernaut is targeted by an attack, that allied Juggernaut may spend 3 power to play this card. After this attack is resolved, Juggernaut may advance short towards the attacking character and may make a strike attack targeting it. That's a little bit scary, isn't it, having a Juggernaut run towards you and pound you into the ground?
I think, you might have gathered from my play pattern during the game that we had that card absolutely terrifies me. I was playing X-Men, which isn't a faction I'm particularly comfortable with at the best of times, but also they are so much squishier than anything else I play.
They really
So
are.
having the threat of, like, the looming threat of a Jugernaut just walking up to someone and punching them mid-activation is absolutely terrifying. Like, if you daze a character with that attack and, like, you're doing it on the first action they've done that round, you've effectively, like, you know, they're losing most of their activation, which is huge. Also, there were a bunch of times where I couldn't activate certain characters because of the threat of the card. There was a point where I had, like, a newly flipped Wolverine and I couldn't go after Scarlet Witch because I knew that I was going to be on the receiving end of making a ruckus if I went for it. And if I didn't get her on, like, immediately on like, the first swing, like, effectively, that activation was wasted. I was effectively passing the turn to Rich and giving him one less character to worry about. It was terrifying, and I don't like it.
Yeah, it really did loom, didn't it? And I think, you know, with this card, the advice I'll give people is not to use it at the first opportunity, but make sure you're using it at the right moment. Because as Quinn says, ideally you want to use it in a position where you can end that character's turn there and then. So, you know, Colossus punching Quicksilver, right? And Colossus is on full health, and he's got, you know, the 3 or 4 physical defense that he's got, and he's on 6 stamina. I would say it's not the right time to use it because you might chip away 2 damage onto Colossus, but it's not going to ruin Quinn's plans. However, Rogue on 2 health left, trying to make an attack, that's a big time to use it. And I think in the end I used it when you made your big beam attack, didn't you? On Remy.
Effectively, it was going to be, like, the make or break it turn. Like, I had one chance to, like, win the game, and it was Gambit, like, just popping off. And there's a very real chance that it would have worked.
Oh god, yeah, absolutely. You could have dazed my entire team. With
like,
that,
he had
with
3
that
hammers
attack.
on him, and he did the 52 card pickup through, I think it was Toad, Magneto, and Juggernaut. I did Juggernaut first. I didn't quite manage to kill him. I think I did, like, 6 damage or something like that to him. I did, like, a lot.
Yeah,
but it
you
wasn't
did quite a lot.
enough, which then immediately meant, you know, Juggernaut came for me and just did, like, the last couple of damage that
he had like 2 or 3 health left, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it was 2 damage you needed to take Remy off the board, and when you did, effectively it was game because all I had left was Colossus, and Colossus not that great in, like, a 1v4 situation, even most 1v1 situations.
Absolutely. Quinn, lastly then, we saw another couple of cards, I think 3 other cards in total that were spoilt. So I want to start with I suppose the most generic of all of them, Indomitable. So first of all, I think this comes with Colossus, doesn't it? This is in the Colossus pack.
He's got his face
so he's got his face on the thing. Well, you say that, right? It's not always the case, is it, as we know?
No, it's not. But, I mean, I feel like it would make a lot of sense. I mean, I could literally go on the AMG website and check.
I'm pretty sure it is. So, unaffiliated, reactive. When an allied character would be thrown or pushed by an enemy effect, it may spend 2 power to play this card. You're just not thrown or pushed.
Which, I mean, it's brace, but better.
It's an unrestricted brace.
Well, in some ways, in others, no, right?
It's a brace from the character side of things, right?
Yeah, so,
character into character.
Magneto throwing a size 4 bit of terrain into you is still gonna hurt like a motherfucker. But, like, you know, Jugernaut using "Do you even know who I am?" picking up a Hulk, throwing him into Steve. You just pay 2 power and go, no.
Yep.
You don't even get to move my Hulk. He stands there. Screw you.
Yeah. I can see this card being used a lot in rosters. Criminal Syndicate, it's amazing, right? I'm not leaving this point. And you can't even push me off this point.
Syndicate as well, the push aspect of it is really powerful as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I mean, some Syndicate lists anyway, already, run Warpath in order to get,
that's the counter it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you walk back onto the point where this is just going, no, don't want to.
Yeah, it's huge. Absolutely huge. Next card is Versatile Strategy, and this is
also known as Let's Make Avengers even better.
Even better, yeah. Even though they've got X-Men on here, unaffiliated, active, an allied character with an active leadership ability may play this card. You may choose a non-active leadership ability of an allied character in your squad that corresponds to your squad affiliation. The chosen leadership ability is now active instead of the current leadership ability. All effects of the original leadership ability expire. And that last part is really important because there are some leftover effects. The only one I can think of is Mystique, Quinn. Where
at the moment, yes. When Guardians get a second leader, winning it tokens will expire as well.
Yes,
as the game grows, there will be more and more cases.
More cases and examples of when it would work. But essentially, you take 2 Captain Americas, you play them both, and then mid-game, you switch. That's it. Now, it's active, so it has to be on your turn, Quinn, doesn't it?
It has to be on your turn, and it has to be played by the character that has the leadership ability.
Yes, yeah. So, really important is that if your leader is dazed, or indeed KO'd, they cannot use it. They're not going to be able to use it. So this is something you want to probably get off towards the end of that character. Depending on how the game goes, right? Depending on how the game is going. But
I do want to quickly mention that I really like the art for this card because it's got Scott shooting fucking finger guns at Storm.
Yeah.
I find that really funny.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what I like about this, Quinn. I've said this before many, many times, in that I always feel like taking a character that has a leadership ability on their card and not using that leadership ability, I always feel like I'm missing out on part of it. I always feel like
you're
part
playing
of their threat is that card is that part of the card. So I like this for that reason. The downsides to this are it only affects a small number of affiliations, or it affects a number of affiliations, and it really gives a boost to 2 or 3 affiliations
to everyone
over everybody else
that we definitely haven't seen enough of.
And I am fed up of Sam Spam. I'm really surprised something wasn't done to try and counter it. I don't know how you can counter it, but this leads into helping that even more than what it had previously. So whilst I like it on the one hand, I think it makes those secondary leaders far more viable now to have in your squad. I only hope that I really do hope that this first 6 months of next year, we don't see too many affiliations, but what we get are a bulking out of other affiliations that we've already got with secondary leaders and that sort of thing.
Of what we got with the Sin and Sam waves.
Exactly that, yeah.
New Asgard wave, new leader. I know you're going to whisper Odin because that's what you do. New Defenders leader with some tactics cards like Jessica Jones. There are so many new Guardians leader in the form of Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of options. It might not be Adam Warlock. It might be Yondu. It might be whoever. It might be Nova. We don't know who it's going to be. I just hope that they are, in fact,
they are there. Yeah. That's what I want. That's what I want is just some more leaders, because whilst the new leader isn't a new affiliation, it breathes new life into an affiliation and gives people. It means then that, and let's look at Avengers now. 3 leaders, so unique in the game that they've got 3 leaders.
Yep.
If you're playing each of those 3 leaders, who, by the way, are all viable in their own right as leaders now that Steve's been bumped, I'd probably say Hulkbuster is the weakest of them as a leader, but still viable.
Don't say these things about my poor boy. Against Max, he's fine.
But what you get, Quinn, is 3 completely different squads going into that game. And I love that. I love that a different leader can bring a completely different flavour. So I do hope that they carry on that trend and that they put
You
more.
could say that it allows you to have a versatile strategy.
Indeed, indeed. The last card I want to talk about is one that we spoke earlier. One of the things we both want, Quinn, are more crisis cards, okay? Across the board. More secures, more extracts. As a player who loves going tall, more high threat secures and extract are always welcome. However, Superpowered Scoundrels form Sinister Syndicate is neither the card we deserved nor the card we needed, is the way that I'm going to put it. So let's run through this brand new secure and we'll tell you exactly what it is. So the setup is place 5 ambush tokens, which is the target of opportunity, as shown on map F.
Which is the same map that is used for Spider Infected and Cubes, namely, there are 5 points, one of which is in the middle.
Yeah, 1 in the middle, and then 4 sort of spread equally out, 1 in each corner, isn't it? So to score, players score 1 VP for each ambush they secure during the cleanup phase. Pretty straightforward, straight far. Characters contesting an ambush token have cover from attacks made by characters not contesting the same ambush token. So
cool, right?
Forget the range. Range 2 is out of the window because that's not how you gain this one. But if I'm within range 1 and you're within range 1.5, I have cover, you don't. Sam spam.
Yeah, like, funnily enough, shield throw ignores cover.
For me, it's the one thing now that is broken in this game is Sam spam. It's not enjoyable. It's not fun to play against. Is it unbeatable? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've had lots of success against using Brotherhood, right? Even going 3 tall on a 20 threat and coming up against 7 characters, I've had success and I've won the games. But it wasn't enjoyable. It wasn't fun. And this, whilst it works for others as well, this with Sam spam is just not great at all.
Yeah. One of my main issues with Sam, and one that I think a few other people have, is playing against Sam takes a really long time, and it's kind of boring. Like,
yep. Yeah, I mean, you played your first game of the week, and this is no disrespect, by the way, guys, to anyone who chooses to play Sam spam, right? It's an option. It's arguably the most competitive roster at the moment.
It's very viable.
You played a 2-hour game, Quinn, right? And let's say that the first 15 minutes of that was set up, okay?
Yeah.
You got to round 3?
We were midway through round 3. So we played 2.5 rounds, in effect. And this isn't like any sort of disparaging comment on my opponent. He played quite quickly for a Sam player at that. It was just the fact that we were at 20 threat, and you still have to think about decisions regardless of what team you play. It's just that Sam spam gives you even more decisions to think about in the fact that you've got A, more characters, and B, you have to think about the leadership constantly, and you have to think about Avengers Assemble constantly as well. Like, that there are a lot of moving parts of Sam that slow the game down and kind of turn it into a lot more of a grind than is reasonably enjoyable in my experience.
Yeah, I agree. Just again, for me, Quinn, it comes back to not an enjoyable experience, and this card plays into that, enhancing what is already, I'm not going to say broken. Sam Spam isn't broken. It's a very, very, very good roster, very, very good affiliation, arguably the best in the game at the moment, the most competitive. And that's fine, but it's not fun. And this just enhances everything that they already had. I'll also say as well, it's really good for Criminal Syndicate. Works.
I think it's quite good for Guardians. Any team that can go like reasonably wide.
Yeah, a Sin Cabal as well. Works quite well in the, because you tend to go a bit wider on a Sin Cabal list as well, don't you?
And then if they're not moving back on them, you get cover, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So be interesting to see. We've not managed to play this one yet, Quinn, have we? So maybe we have a game of this next time round. But be interesting to see how it plays. As a tall player, I'm not a fan of 5 victory points being up for grabs every turn. But that's just because of the way I play. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. And Quinn, that is all of the spoilers that we had to go through that we saw last week. That was
finally done.
That was a hell of a lot. That was a lot of spoilers. But as we said, guys, it's not going to be. There's not going to be this much news. There's not going to be this many spoilers week in, week out. So hopefully you've enjoyed that part of the show, and hopefully the more in-depth discussion around the characters and some first-hand experience is better than just getting that quick take. Everybody does a quick take. We wanted to do something a little bit different. So guys, the next segment of our show is Roster of the Week. And I was lucky enough to speak to Aaron, Ron and Elliot, also known as the Reverse Oreo, who were the 4-0 victors. Not only did they go 4-0 as a team, each individual player also went 4-0 as well. So I was lucky enough to sit down with them earlier on this week and have a quick chat with them about their roster for the team event and what they brought and how they found the day. So guys, I'm joined by Aaron, Ron and Elliot, also known as the Reverse Oreo, which on Saturday when I saw you guys all stood there and it dawned upon me what that actually meant, did make me chuckle quite a bit. But how are you guys doing?
Matt, thank you. Yeah, not bad.
Do chess.
Excellent. And another very, very successful event for you guys, wasn't it, this weekend?
4-0, baby. Yeah, playing again. You won, weren't it?
So for anyone that doesn't know, we had the first team event, or at least the first IRL team event in the UK last weekend, the Multiverse event. Bit of a strange journey for you guys, wasn't it? Because I think on Wednesday you probably still weren't playing, and then somebody dropped out last minute. You guys joined. Not only turn up and won the entire thing, you went 4-0 as a team, but then I believe as individuals all went 4-0 as well. So an absolute clean sweep across the board. So well done on that one.
Yeah, that was pretty mad really at the end of it. Was expecting Elliot to lose at least one of his games.
was he the weak link that you thought was going to bring it all down?
Well, yeah, I'll admit it. I'd say I am the weak link out of this pair, but
is that why they made you play Sam Spam, so it increased your chances of winning, El? Is that it?
Well, to be fair, Matt, I've been playing them for quite a bit now. Been playing them for quite a few. Well, I've done about 4 or 5 events with them now, at least.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they are just very, very strong at the moment. So, obviously, as you heard then, guys, El was playing Sam Spam. Aaron, you took your trusty Web Warriors, didn't you? Along with you. And Ron, you brought along the Spider Foes, but actually brought on, because we didn't use any of the new rules, guys, or any of the new cards. So you were playing the old Green Goblin, weren't you? So none of the buffs for Spider Foes, and yet you still managed to go 4-0 as well. So pretty good going for you guys. How did you find the event? Because there was some extra kind of rules, wasn't there, on roster building over and above what we would normally have. So the rules, guys, were that they had one set of cards between the three of them. So they couldn't duplicate any character, any crisis, or any tactics cards across the three rosters. So did you find that impacted your rosters in any way, shape, or form? Did you have to swap cards out for cards that you wouldn't normally take, or did it not have an impact at all?
For my roster, I had to change quite a bit because I just told Aaron he could take what he wants. And I'll just fill.
Yeah, so when we building the teams, I think we sort of started off by going, right, we're going to do the characters first. And we all sort of Ron, luckily for me and Elliot, said, look, I'll just play whatever you two don't want to play. So it was sort of me and Elliot said what we wanted, and then Ron sort of picked and chose around that. And then we did the same with tactics, same with crisis. I don't think it was that bad for the characters.
I was going to say, overall, I would say across the whole thing, really. I don't think we struggled that much, to be honest.
I think the worst part was the crisis cards, because we were all taking very similar ones originally.
Yeah. But to be fair, like in all fairness, what I'd usually take for Sam, like I actually got in the majority of my missions, to be honest. And that was without too much clashing from like these two either.
And when you were playing your actual games, how did you find? Did you find that you were coming up against, and I suppose particularly the extracts and the secures, because there were enough team tactics cards to go around. There were more than enough characters to go around. I think by the time you've picked 3 each, there's only maybe 1 or 2 tactics cards left over. Sorry, 1 or 2 crisis cards left over. Did you find that you were playing scenarios that you didn't normally play as well, or was it kind of the same old, same old?
I didn't find that I didn't play anything I wouldn't normally play, I don't think, because with the current rules, obviously they've changed now. Really, you could take, say, 2 extracts, 2 secures, and whatever you want as the third one and never play it. Yeah. So that's sort of what we all did. We all took 2 cards that we'd normally take and then filled the gaps. So for my extracts, for example, I took Scrolls and Spider Infected, which are 2 that I'd normally taken. The third one I just put Wakandan Herbs, but then never actually had to play it because I could just pick one the other turn.
So you knew you were never going to have to play Herbs because obviously I gather you didn't have a plan for it, right? And that's the card that you definitely need to have a plan for. So, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. How about you, Ron? Obviously you were it sounds like you just sort of waited until these 2 cleared the shelves and then you just picked whatever was left.
Yeah, my missions were awful. I didn't win priority once all day.
Oh, no.
I got locked into extracts all 4 games.
So actually, of everyone, Ron, it feels like you might be the MVP of this team because you took whatever was left over, and it sounds like you had a harder time than either of these 2 as well.
Yeah, I don't know, it wouldn't did well, though.
Yeah, it's just one of them, innit? I don't know. I don't know. I've always just seemed to perform better on underdogs. So, like, before Spider Foes, I played Convocation, and like before that, I played Defenders with Old Hulk.
Oh wow, okay. You like taking those old cards, don't you?
Yeah.
and Ron, were you intending on taking Spider Foes before the other guys had picked, or did you take Spider Foes because what was left over? What was your thought process in taking them?
No, I pretty much locked into Spider Foes, to be fair, because I did 2 events previously, went 4-0 at one, 3-0 at another, only losing to Aaron. Over the 2 events, so I were kind of locked into Spider Foes anyway. But obviously, with the Highlander rules, my choice of Crisis and obviously losing Venom was the biggest hits for me.
Yeah, and then
of course, because he took Venom off you, didn't he? Yeah,
he did, yeah, and then didn't use him in any game.
Yeah, to top it off, didn't use him once, not in a single game.
And to a like roster selection and that as well, like in terms of us sharing tactics cards and that, I was quite generous. I thought I said to Ron, I was like, "Oh no, I'm easy. I'm happy. Like we're a team. We can all share." And then we had Aaron at the front going, "No, I need this. I need this.
No,
you can have this. I'll let you have that."
Rich, this is an inaccurate representation. So what happened is, I said, "Lads, I only take 1 restricted card." So I think it's only fair that I get that card regardless.
It wasn't so much the restricted. It went, right, I want these 8 characters and I want these 6 tactics cards.
And that's Medpack, isn't it, Aaron, the one that you take?
Yeah, it's Medpack.
Yeah.
I just said, look, these are the 6 tactics cards I'd like. Medpack's the only restricted one.
I need to have these 8 characters out of the 10. Yeah, we're going back to the deal.
Only 8 out of 10. Not that
Because
much. Really.
previously, Elliot was meant to be playing Crime Syndicate, and because Aaron was adamant that he needed Black Cat, Elliot then moved into Sam Spam.
Okay. Is that another character he was adamant that he needed and never played, or did she actually get an outing,
No,
Aaron?
every game. The only character out of my roster I didn't use was Venom. Literally the entire roster. The only character I didn't use was Venom.
So, guys, on your journey to victory, you come across some obviously really good players, really good teams. What was the hardest game for each of you? That one of the 4 games that you could pick out. Ron, if you want to start, what was the one game that you thought, oh, this looks like I could end up losing this?
To be fair, I had 2, and they were my last 2. I played against under a leaderless A-Force that took Angela, Medusa, Valkyrie, all them characters that have just been nerfed hard.
Yeah.
And Angela kind of fluffed to kill Carnage, and it was just pretty much over then. But overall, my hardest game was my last one against a guy named Norbert, and he took Sin Cabal, and Crossbones were just a machine, just couldn't kill him with anyone.
It's a really nice combination, isn't it? That Sin Cabal combination, not as powerful and not as overpowered as the sort of husband and wife thing that we see, because it's one direction. But yeah, I do like that. And what about you, Elliot? What were sort of particularly the highlight games or tough games that you came up against?
Yeah, again, same as Ron, really. The last 2 games I played were the hardest. I'd say out of the 2, the more difficult one was against Jonah, round 3.
Okay.
He took Spider Foes. And the only thing I was a bit concerned about was, there was Carnage to start. And I know he's a very good counter for Sam Spam with me, like just running a load of 3 threats, especially with me having so many as well.
Yeah, he does like murdering those lower threat characters, doesn't he?
Yeah, and also I knew Spider Foes could actually go wide, and kind of match my numbers, and he did. To be honest, I just just a couple of good dice rolls, a couple of good plays, and I managed to just get the win. Fantastic.
And Aaron, obviously nobody phases you anymore, Aaron. Number 1 ranked player in the world and all that good stuff. He did phone me up, guys, actually. He phoned me up the morning of and went, you have got that red carpet, Rich, haven't you? And those buglers for when he turns up. But but Aaron, joking aside, what were sort of standout games for yourself? Were there any particular ones that you just really enjoyed? There were really good games, or games that were particularly hard for you?
So the second game I really enjoyed. It wasn't necessarily a hard game because the guy was pretty new to it, so it essentially became more like a demo game. But the guy was just such a pleasure playing. So sound. I think his name was Robin.
Oh, is that that was Robin Ashton, wasn't it? He was playing Midnight Suns, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah. So it wasn't close. The game was 20-6 in the end, but it was just such an enjoyable game. The guy was such a good sport, and he was really grateful for me trying to help him as well. So I ended up giving him some of the prize support that we had at the end of the day because I just felt he deserved it for our support and he'd been with it. I mean,
that's fantastic, mate. I didn't know that. No, that's really nice.
No, I'll give him the scoreboard and some of the tokens and stuff. That's why at the end I was asking where he was. He'd already left, so I passed it on through his mate. But he was really sound to play. My first and third games were both against people I'd already played before, so I was pretty comfortable going into both of those. And then my fourth game was the only one that was a little bit closer, but I think the guy I played, Cahal, had a couple of bad dice rolls early on that sort of let me have a little bit more leverage, so I sort of ran away with it in the end, and there wasn't much he could do by that point.
And he was another Blade Midnight Suns player, wasn't he, I think?
Yeah, so he went 17 wide, full Midnight Suns, so he had Blade, Moon Knight, Voodoo, Iron Fist, and someone else. I can't remember off the top of my head.
And it is interesting when I look at those 3 games. So those last 3 games, I think at that point, the guys that you played that came all the way up from London. So big shout out to Sasha, Norbert, and Cahal, who came up for the night before and got the train up. But Aaron, you obviously went 17-10. Ron, you went 16-14. Elliot, you also went 16-14. So it was really nice to see that final game probably did pit, at least on the day, the two best teams together, because it seems like they were definitely the team that gave you the best run for your money.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was watching Elliot's, because I'm pretty sure my game finished first each round, so I was watching Elliot and Ron, and they both looked like really, really solid games. And then me and Ron in the end, whilst Elliot was still playing, went, "Oh, hell, don't matter if you lose now because we've won our two," and just left him to it. Just quite funny.
The pressure was on then. I was thinking, like, they've both gone 4-0. I was like, on it. It weren't so much because obviously I knew at that point that we had won because two of us had won.
It's hard then, isn't it, though? Because you kind of like, the pressure's off. But then also the pressure's on a little bit because you don't want to be the only one that doesn't go 4-0, do you? That's the thing, Al.
I'd have got some stick for that.
At the same time as well, Rich, I really wish I'd have said to him, "Oh, I've won mine, but Ron's lost, so you need to win yours," and then just left him. That would have been quite funny.
And if he came downstairs like really unhappy because he'd lost, but then didn't matter either way. Didn't matter either way. Well, guys, you guys put on a fantastic show. Every game I came up and watched that you guys were playing in looked really, really good. Aaron, as always, your painting is much to be desired. I think
the two of them were mine and the rest are wrong.
The running joke was that it was my first Gwen Stacy, wasn't it, that you were painting up? Elle, again, congratulations to you, because not only did you take down the team event, you also won the best painted as well, didn't you? With your Dr. Voodoo, which was really good. And Aaron, congratulations to you as well, because you also took down the individual challenge as well. So a bit of a clean sweep for you guys in the event.
We brought a lot back with us. I mean, in the end, the prize support was great. I mean, I had £40 store credit and then maybe £60-70 of Cockatoo stuff. Ron and Elle both had good sets of stuff. It was wicked, really.
Yeah, it was a really good event. Rich really did have fun with that one.
I think it was just worth saying as well that you were quite stressed, it seemed, on the day, and at the end you was a little bit worried, but I honestly think that has ran smoother than some of the single events we've been to. Honestly, weren't any problems.
Yeah, it was a really good event, mate.
Oh, thank you, guys. That's much appreciated, and glad you've enjoyed it. Yeah, I think it was one of those where obviously you guys were sat down for 2 hours playing, and especially that first round where what we wanted to use didn't quite work in the way that it should do. And credit to Sam, by the way, from TTS. He got back to me straight away. And actually, not from TTS, from Longshanks even. And by the end of our event, he had it all fixed. It's just that at that point, it was obviously a bit too late for us to use it. But yeah, it was. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. And I think it's definitely something we'll be looking at doing again early next year. I know there's already talk of a couple of other sort of bigger team events here in the UK that we're looking to run with a couple of other tournament organisers. So yeah, for anyone out there who missed this one and is, you know, interested to get involved in it, definitely watch this space. Make sure you keep an eye out on the Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord already, it's a joint Discord between myself and Aaron. Aaron, you may not know his voice, but you may know him from Web Warrior Protocols. So make sure you head over to the Discord. There'll be a link down in the description below. And guys, once again, thank you for not only turning up, I suppose last minute really, filling that last slot at the 11th hour. It really was appreciated. But thank you for being great sports, and thank you for taking the time out to come and talk to me now. It's really appreciated.
It's a pleasure, Rich. Bye, mate.
Just what, dude. Thanks for the event again.
As well. If anyone does want to do a team event, there is one here at Boarding Brum on the 4th of December as well.
There you go. Perfect.
You know, making it up, Richard, now if you're free or not, but that's going to be another good one, hopefully.
Yeah, it's a kids' weekend for me, that one, unfortunately, mate, so I couldn't make it. But yeah, I'll be keeping my eyes out for the next ones that come up, definitely. Quinn, this next segment of the show is one of my favourites, and it's called But Do You Even Paint? So every week we're going to set the audience at home a challenge, and that challenge will be based around a particular character or a particular theme. They can then submit their work to us. Now, by submitting their work, they will automatically be entered into our prize draw at the end of the season. Now, the prize draw for this season is going to be the Rivals Pack, so the Doc Ock versus the Korbok Spider-Man. And I believe you get those really cool foil cards with them as well, don't you? So
You get
really
shiny
nice
foil cards,
collector's
you get,
piece.
like a cool little display piece thing. Like, it's a really nice pack.
It really is. It really is. So just by entering, or just by submitting your work, you can get entered into that prize draw. And if you are the chosen winner each week, you'll get put onto our Hall of Fame. And yeah, you get some bragging rights. Now, we had 8 entries this week. So to every single person who put forward an entry, I want to say thank you very, very much. So Chewy89, also known as Anthony, Evelynce, we had Games Dean, Hero Plagius, we had Roman Martinez, and we had Silas Hine, who all reached out to me in one way, shape or form and submitted your Dormammu's. All really, really good. On community, I'll be putting those up so you'll be able to see everybody's submission. But there can only be one winner, unfortunately. But we did want to give a shout out to one of them, which was a non-standard kind of colour scheme, wasn't it, Quinn? And you can see below. So Patrick Rowland submitted this, and we were both really, really impressed, weren't we, with, in particular, the face and that bone.
I really
face.
like sort of the bone-coloured faceplate. Cream and purple are a really good colour combination, and it works exceptionally well in this piece.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Really, really agree. Love the purple flames. Love the blue face. Love the stone effect on that base. Is really, really nice. One thing I've only just noticed now, Quinn, as well, is like the lava effect at the bottom of the portal is also really, really good.
It kind of reminds me of lasagna, and now I'm hungry.
It does, and now you want lasagna. So, Patrick, shout out to you. But as I said, they unfortunately can only be one winner, and that was Jordan A. Now, guys, this is a stunning paint job. Jordan submitted a couple of other pictures as well, so I'll just roll through them, but you'll get to see each of them. But Quinn, the blends are clean, the flames are just on point, the OSL is just really good.
One thing I've noticed on it is, the portal in the background?
Yes.
So on the extremities of that, it kind of looks like blood. And I'm wondering whether that was like an intentional thing of like him being summoned through some sort of like dark blood sacrifice thing.
Yeah, I'd like to at least think that was.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with. If that wasn't your intention, change it and make it so that was your intention.
Just lie and say it was. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Great ideas.
The purple hues on his sort of first layer of armor, I suppose, is really nice. The edge highlighting on the main armor is really, really good. So Jordan, you don't win anything, buddy, but you get put up onto our Hall of Fame, but you do get your name put into the prize draw for that Rivals pack. So thank you to everyone who submitted. And Quinn, we need to pick a theme for next week. And as I got to pick the theme for this week, I felt it was only right to let you pick the theme for next week. Now, it can be a character, individual character. It can be a theme. It could be somebody who's done a conversion. Anything you like, feel free, and that'll be the theme for next week.
So I'm torn between two options here. One of them is this boy, this beautiful, beautiful boy. The other option, and I think the one I'm going to go for, just because I want to give myself more time to paint Hulk and get my own entry, I would like to propose that we use what people are going to be playing in the brave new world we've entered as the theme. Like, the next affiliation you're going for, due to all the changes and stuff like that, show us.
Nice.
Go for that.
Okay. So do you want to see a full roster? Do you want to see an individual character? How do you want to do it?
I think dealer's choice. You can either do like a full roster of what you're bringing, like an affiliation, or you can pick out one of your characters and sort of go for one that surmises what you're going for in general. Like if you're going to be playing a ton of Hulk, do a Hulk.
Bring Hulk.
If you're going to be like playing exclusively like spider foes, like do a goblin or do like all of the foes together. Do whatever you like. Nice. Anarchy reigns.
Dear Lord. I pick one specific character. Yeah. Quinn's like, bring what you want.
Yeah, chaos is a ladder, motherfucker.
Excellent. So Quinn, last part of the show, and this is going to be the other recurring theme. It is called Just Roll Better. So this is inspired by Quinn's Skillshare course that he announced recently. For a mere £50 a month, you can enrol in Quinn's course. And Quinn, what's the basis of the course?
So actually, you undersold it there. It's £50 a week, not a
week.
Month.
Sorry,
I feel like I would be basically giving it away for free at £50 a month. But effectively, I have mastered the art of rolling dice really well, and I wanted to share that with the community. And effectively encourage people who might not have had the best time with their dice to just try again and just roll better. Like it's just that easy, guys.
It really should be. It really should be. So every week, guys, we want you to submit your worst rolls. What are the rolls that you made during a game that just absolutely flopped, didn't do anything you want at all? Whether they're dodge rolls, defense rolls, attack rolls, let us know. The more dice rolled and the more failures, the better.
And we do want context around it as well.
Context as well, guys.
Don't just send us a screenshot of like 20 dice all showing skulls. Explain what happened.
Yes, absolutely. So we had some really good entries from this week. I think Scotty Medlin was using Hulkbuster, did a 22 dice Helios laser attack. I can't remember who it was into. I think got 6 successes and they were all blocked. So it was just an absolute flop. But the one that we have picked out is from our good friend Chris Chalachan. You may know him as That 70s Bloke. His Doctor Strange came up against Avengers, and he paid the extra power for his defense roll. So he got 6 dice. He rolled them all, and it was really bad. I think he got one defense or 1 block in total. So as you do,
re-roll it.
As you do, well, because of course you would, Quinn, right?
Yeah,
6 dice,
he's facing like 5 damage.
1 success.
Like obviously you re-roll
5 damage. You re-roll them to none. Absolutely no blocks whatsoever. As you can see, he managed 4 hits and 2 blanks. So an absolute whiff. And I think one-shotting Strange in the end, which was
one-shotting Strange in the end, and. We do have to bring this up. This game was actually against Chris's personal nemesis.
Yes, Jed.
Errata'd Olorenshaw.
Who was playing Sam Spam, by the way.
Yeah. They played a lot of events. Chris doesn't like playing against Jed because Chris always loses. He's just following a theme. Chris is actually the person where my catchphrase originated.
It is.
I felt like it was fitting to give him the first ever free entry to my Skillshare course.
Absolutely. And of course, every winner each week gets a free lifetime subscription to Quinn's Skillshare course. We may have to put some actual terms and conditions at the bottom of that this course does not exist. You cannot enroll on this course. I mean, if it did exist, it would just be Quinn on repeat shouting at you, telling you to roll better. So
no, I wouldn't even be shouting at them. I'd just be like saying it with a smirk, like, Robert, huh? Robert, Robert. Just that over and over again in your mind forever until you roll well.
That would not be good.
No.
Guys, that is the end. This one has been a bit longer, or considerably longer than what we thought it would be, and probably much, much longer than the other shows moving forward. They're probably going to be between an hour and a half, but we had a lot to cover in this show. Hopefully, guys, you've enjoyed this new format. I personally prefer doing it in this way. I prefer having played with the characters before we talk about them, rather than just doing a hot take. But let us know down in the comment section below. I will chapterize all this so you'll be able to see the chapters and things, but let us know down in the comments. And remember, send us over your bad rolls. Quinn will evaluate them and pick out his winner for each week. And make sure you submit your painting competition. You can find the email address on the About page on the YouTube site. And Quinn, just to clarify then, so it's kind of the new world that we're talking about.
Yeah. Whatever you're playing in this brave new world, whatever affiliation it is, it could be single model, whether you're playing you're just going to play Hulk in every list because you really love Hulk, or it can be, an affiliation shop, like all your spider foes together, or like if you've got a set roster that you know you're going to be like getting reps in with, send us that.
Perfect. Excellent. Guys, as always, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.
See ya.